Welcome to the Infill Podcast, where we interview the most interesting members of the 3D printing and maker communities, live and with audience participation. And now, here is your host, Jonathan Levy.
Welcome everybody. Really excited to have you guys here. We have an extra special episode planned for you. Before we do that, though, I do need to thank our first sponsor with one of my favorite segments in the show, and that is called What's Printing, Jonathan? But of course, I didn't set it up correctly, so hold on one second, and we'll set that up, and I will show you guys what's printing, Jonathan. So What's Printing, Jonathan is a segment that is brought to you by Octo Everywhere, one of our sponsors. You can sign up using the link in the description. But what's cool about Octo Everywhere is it allows you to monitor all your printers, including your remote ones, for whether they're Octo printers, whether they're Clipper printers, whether they are Bamboo Lab printers even. And you can see here that I had some multi-board parts fail this morning, and I haven't had a chance to clear the bed. Not the fault of the printer or the designer. I just didn't clean my print bed because I'm an idiot. And you can see here that on another one of my printers, I am now remoting into it, and I'm printing some more multi-board accessories. Octo Everywhere, by the way, does have spaghetti detection. I didn't enable it, which was a stupid thing of me to do. And then I went to sleep. Anyway, link in the description to learn more about Octo Everywhere. On to today's guest. Today we are joined by my friend, Jonathan from Keep Making. He is also the creator of Multiboard. Now, normally I do not ask hard questions on this podcast. I like it to be a friendly conversation, but I feel comfortable enough with Jonathan because we are friends. We also have a financial relationship, which we'll get into, but I feel comfortable enough asking him the hard questions. And I came to him and I was like, dude, people are saying all this stuff about you. How much of it is true? And he's like, well, let's talk about it out in the open because, secrets are no fun. And so I've been given full permission, welcome, Jonathan, to ask all the hard questions. And I intend to. First and foremost, welcome. How are you, my friend?
Well, thank you. I'm good. Not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous because
That's all right.
you,
It's only a
you,
live audience.
it's only a live audience asking the hardest questions you can possibly muster up. So that'll be good fun.
Yeah, it will. I'm confident it will. Let's first off, let's do the disclosure stuff. So you're sponsoring a lot of channels, and we're
Yes.
going to get into Multiboard is free, but there's also paid stuff. We're going to get into all that. But you're sponsoring a lot of channels, mine included, which was super helpful, and I owe you. Because my landlord just increased my rent by 45%, and you came in to save the day for me and for Mandic Really and for a bunch of other people. With that said, very important to state, you have no specification of what I'm allowed to say. To quote you, you said, I want to support you to do you, and if that means shitting on Multiboard, that's fine. The only terms in my contract are a certain number of videos where I build stuff with Multiboard. And also, I think I'm contractually required to try to prioritize to use official parts, which we're going to get into as well. Why only official parts? Why not remixes? I will also say this is not pre-recorded, pre-scripted or anything. We talked a little bit about what we want to talk about, but I'm also going to take the conversation where I want. And there's a live chat. So if you guys have questions, I really want to convey the openness with which you have come to this conversation and encourage people to take advantage of that. Because it's not every day, I think, someone just says, hey, you guys are taking issue with something. Let's start at the beginning. What is Multiboard? Because you corrected me the other day when I said it's an organization system. What is Multiboard in your eyes? What are the benefits of using it?
So for sure. So ultimately, if you haven't seen Multiboard, it first came about sort of as this great big organization system. Technically speaking, the organization system aspect of it was a little Trojan horse that to just get into the 3D printing space to then go, actually, it's an entire building system. So the whole idea behind Multiboard is sort of versatility and modularity to really be able to do anything you want to do with it, be it organization, be it building some crazy project, be it some people are starting to do robotics with it. It's amazing stuff. It's sort of standardized global dimensions and specifications so that it works with everything in the global real world space. It is also centralized so that there is like one whole home of truth as well as a community home of truth, which makes it a lot easier to navigate with and interact with. And then the
Mm.
other sort of like key strength that just comes about from it is that it's pretty strong. Now, the only reason why it's strong is because it's been designed to last, not to print fast. I'm sure you're well aware of that one, Jonathan.
I've done over
And
1,000 hours of multi-board printing.
yeah, so, and because it's designed to last, because I want it to be modular and reusable, I want it to be a system that grows with you from literally being a kid all the way to an adult in wherever in your home, that
Yeah.
you'll be able to use the same thing the whole way. And you won't have to always have to be reprinting stuff. So that ultimately is multiboard.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't want to go on a tangent because I do want to ask the hard questions, but I'm curious, you say it's like a building system. I was thinking the other day about building a bench with it, like a shoe storage bench. Like, could I actually build something that I could sit on that would?
For sure, for sure. You actually can, especially with a few things that are going to be coming out real
Okay.
soon.
Because I was gonna say I don't see
But
myself
uh, but I'm not.
making
I'm
a.
gonna
Yeah.
start saying the things now because actually imprinted, it was everywhere imprinted. So imprinted, there's actually this thing that is STEMFI. We're actually
Mm.
partnering up together to work together, and STEMFI is an incredible building system that actually works with the CC, the central point of Multiboard, and we're basically redeveloping it, taking it to a whole new level to do some pretty crazy things in the future. And that is something you're really going to be able to build some crazy things with.
So let me ask this question, right? I was a big holdout and you were persistent, which I appreciate now that I'm already on it. But I was a holdout because I had probably one of the biggest honeycomb storage wall collections. I would venture to say on Earth, right? Like just behind me is like 20 square meters. Not to mention
Yeah.
all the other walls were done, my home, everything. Why build another system? Like what was good about the other systems, but also what was wrong with honeycomb storage wall, IKEA Scatus, traditional pegboard? I don't think Open Grid and Goes were available yet, but like what was wrong with those systems?
Man, ultimately, nothing's wrong with them. If it sorts out a problem for most people, then go for it. For
Hmm.
me, it was more one of the I felt I was limited. I didn't feel like there was a way that I could further build upon it. Um, it didn't feel like a framework. It didn't feel like it fit within standardized dimensions, things that were made out of magical units. Um,
Mm,
like the honeycomb storage with the honeycombs, you're off center all the time. The
right,
centers of things are actually like 37 millimeters or something like that.
right.
So like to put a VESA mount onto it, it's like, okay, well, you need a VESA mount adapter. And then once you have the VESA mount adapter, then you've got to make sure you put it in this specific spot and make sure you have the tile the right. So there was
Yeah.
all that good stuff. And then Scatus, well, it is patented to all hell.
Really?
Um, oh, yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. It is patented pretty tightly. And
And yet
if
they
anybody
allow
was,
people to design their own stuff for it. Like they're not sending
of
takedowns to printables.
Of course, because it's more one of these things that they believe no matter what, their product's going to be better than anything you'll be able to make.
Got
And
it.
if people make accessories for it, all that does is makes their core
Got it.
board even better. So at the end of the day, it'll be like, well, eventually people will get tired of printing great big flat bricks that just have holes in them. They'll just go to IKEA and buy it because they are dirt cheap, really, for what you get. Um, yeah. So, and
So
also,
that's a
frankly,
surprising answer because I thought you were gonna say strength. But if I'm hearing you
no.
correctly, I mean, I let's leave honeycomb storage wall aside because yes, the biggest issue is it's aesthetically, I think, probably the best looking system, but honeycombs introduce a whole range of issues. What I thought you were going to say is strength, because Multiboard, I think, is probably the strongest system out there. But in fact, what you're saying is standardization and units of, multiples of 25, which is an industry standard.
Yeah, and creating a framework from there to build and extend off. Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
That's ultimately it.
So the goal really was just to create a more standardized system that, and I know you didn't say this, but I know this from our conversations, it was interoperability, right? How does it integrate with DIN rails, which are already an industry standard? How does it integrate with VESA mounts, which are already an industry standard? Pegboards, it integrates with existing pegboard accessories. So it's really a system that's supposed to integrate systems, which I don't think people realize, because if you look at Multiboard, you think, he's engineering a solution from soup to nuts, but actually it is, and it's supposed to leverage other systems, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure we're going to get into lots of things that come from that approach, though.
Right. So, okay, let's get the elephant out of the room right out of the way, which is, you talked about Scatus being patented. Multiboard is not open source.
No.
And I think there's a lot of confusion, judging from my comment section whenever I talk about it. People think that it's on some restrictive license. So let's clear the air and explain, like, why is it not open source? What does the license actually mean? And why go with such a license? Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
there's a lot there.
There's a lot there. Put frankly, licensing in general hasn't caught up with the world that we are in now, which is Industry 4.0. It was able to catch up pretty well with the digital space and coding, but when it comes to the 3D space, the only thing that was really used for the 3D space was patenting and function. And then there was copyright for the visual look of things. But when it came to this weird space of the 3D form, we basically just went, okay, so there's these licenses out there for this, there's these licenses over there for that. Let's just try and use them in this space. And by all means, they do work most of the time. And the open source licensing, honestly, was amazing at the beginning, because the community was so small, so tiny, so everything. Prusa, even themselves now, coming literally from the horse's mouth, it's like, we're no longer as open. We are patenting down. We are past the point of we need help development. Everybody needs to be beating on the same drum, to the point of now we need to help grow the industry as a whole. And if everything is free and out there, nothing can grow, because everything costs, no matter what.
Yes.
Everything has a price to it. And someone somewhere is either profiting it or making a buck from it. It has to happen somehow. So I couldn't find a license that would work with what I wanted. I really wanted sort of like a CC4-ish thing that was also a little bit more permissible in some areas, but a little bit more restrictive in others. It took me, I always forget the number now, but it was about 16 lawyers to find one that would say, okay, I'll take it on. And then another like 20 hours of discussion with them to actually nail down this license. Now, the license itself, because that was the other question you had.
Yeah.
Look, so now I am legally obliged to say the following, because my lawyers told me so, but what I'm about to tell you is, like, this is not the license itself. Please go and read the actual legal code. This is just sort of my interpretation. This is not a rewrite of the license, yada, yada, yada.
Of course.
Big air quotes there. But ultimately, it's, don't repost my designs, please. You are allowed to remix as long as you actually make a change. And the license is custom to support the project's development, create a unified sort of infrastructure to help the community profit and stop bad actors taking advantage of the community. And ultimately, the way that I've seen it, and I could be taking this wrong, but people like the idea of open source because it's community driven and it's free. Multiboard is both of those things.
Right.
Every single individual part is free.
Let me correct one thing, though, which is, you said don't repost my designs, but also people cannot, unless they're on a commercial license, true open source, right? And Zach Friedman has said this before, which we can get into the whole, was it right to open source Gridfinity when it was heavily inspired by other people's paid designs? We won't get into that. I got into that a little bit with Zach himself. But true open source means you can take my design, you can go sell it on Etsy, you can sell it, you don't even have to reference me. That is true open source unrestricted license. Which we can talk opinions about that. I'm not in favor of that because I don't believe that's fair to do that without attribution. But anyway, people can also not sell multi-board printed parts unless they're on a commercial license. So in that way, it is also not open source. True open.
That is correct.
Which, let me just say, I feel is reasonable. And I feel like open source has become one of these knee-jerk words that people put a label on. Living here in Israel, I have a lot of other words that I feel like people put a label on because it's easier than describing the nuances of what's actually happening in a situation, and it's easier than the nitty-gritty. And you're right, we need a term which is something along the lines of like community, open to the community, but you are not free to profit off of my work. So you're saying there's really only those two restrictions, which is you can't pass my models off as yours. You can't download them and upload them, but you can make your own remixes. And the second thing is you can't profit off of Multiboard unless you're on a commercial license.
Yeah.
If
now, there's
someone,
also,
one other
there's
question
also one other thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Which is the big thing that trips up a lot of people is it's revocable.
Oh yeah. Well, let me ask, before we go to the revocable, let me ask, like, if someone, let's say I design something on top of Multiboard, which is significantly different, right? Like I expand Multiboard into, we were just talking, it's missing to date a lot of like camera accessories, which are standardized, right? Quarter 20 inserts, hot shoe things. Let's say I design multi-camera, which is like 100 parts that adapt it to camera pieces. Can I sell that? Or is that still based on the Multiboard license and your IP and I can't sell it?
It depends. If you are literally just getting, I don't know, let's just go here, a bin, and you put a tiny hole in it to put a camera in it, hey, that's a remix. So
Right.
please, you need a Multiboard license to be able to sell that. If you make something that looks like nothing in the system, it's just compatible with it. So it has
Oh, I
holes,
see.
it has threads, it has a rail on it, has that. That's your own IP. You can do whatever you want.
I get what you're saying.
Whatever you want.
Well, and what you said in passing is important as well, which is if I want to, it's kind of like Apple, right? If I want to sell on the Apple ecosystem and use their SDK, all I need is to pay a $99 a year license to be a developer, and now and pay them 20%, I guess, which you're not taking 20%, I assume. How much is a commercial license? If I want, let's say I want to go with this idea just randomly, and I want to build Multiboard camera, the Multiboard content creators suite. It's 100 parts to adapt to every possible pin, and you know all this gear. People in the audience don't. Like, what do I have to pay you a year?
It is currently $42 a month.
Okay, very cool.
And it's up to a limit of 50,000 a year in sales from that. And then past that, past that, we basically would have a negotiation. But in my mind's eye, what I'm thinking would be is basically, hey, it's basically the same fee, except it's now 0.001 of your revenue, which comes to the same amount, same number normally. It just now scales with you.
Terrence has a very good question, which is perfectly timed. He asks, I think he asked even before we got into like, how can someone build a business on Multiboard? Which touches on revocability. How can someone be expected to build a business on a commercial license that is easily revocable? And this gets into like you and I talking, how can we trust you if the license is revocable?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of things there. The first one is, why on earth is it even revocable? Right? So firstly, legally speaking, if I am ever in any way shape, or form to update, change, or refine this license, I need to make it revocable, because this is such a free and open thing, well, in its own way, that I do not collect the email addresses of everybody who downloads a part. So legally speaking, if I cannot give everybody the update that their license has been changed, I have to then revoke it and reset it.
Got
So
it.
that's why there's the revocability. And by the way, I am planning on doing that in probably about a month or so, because I'm adding the clause of not letting anyone apart from Multiboard create injection molded parts, because I've already had representatives in India and China that are part of like IKEA and stuff like that already say, hey, we're already going to hit 50K plus in a month. I want to do XYZ. And I was just like, okay, well, please don't, because that's not what this is about. And I'm here to protect the community. So
Wait, I don't understand. You're saying there are already IKEA stores selling 3D printed multiboard?
there's already manufacturers that work with such bodies as IKEA and that are looking into injection molding the collection.
Oh, wow.
So I'm here to be like, hold up, the community is protected by my things. So things that are remixed of mine have this
Whoa.
license. That's why I tell the community, honestly, if you want to protect yourself, add the multi-board license to your part. But that's
Whoa.
up to you. Like I'm
I
not
hadn't
going to
even
stop you there.
considered the idea of like, you've created this situation where you're licensing someone to make money off multiboard. How do you control that they're only using official parts and not something that oh, I hadn't even thought
And
about that.
that there is why I tell you to try and only use the official multiboard parts, because if you go and make something really popular that is a remix and then people start just selling that remix, I want to make sure that everybody has asked the permission of that remixer.
Whoa. I hadn't thought about that at all. That it opens this whole can of worms when you've created an ecosystem, and it's all well and good for you to license your parts, but you can't license my remixes without my authorization. Okay, so hang on.
No, we also
I do want
still
to
have the
make sure that we're
revocability.
respecting chat here. This is a quick question. Uh, if I remix something and I upload it to MakerWorld or Printables and I want to get points for it, that doesn't count as profiteering off of Multiboard. Or does it?
Man,
Because points can be exchanged for money.
if we're going to, if I were to be a big bad guy and be like, I'm going to get my legal squad to go after everyone,
Yeah. For a $40 gift certificate.
yeah, it
But
is
technically, one
100%.
could argue that that is not selling the part. You are giving the part away. And as a result, it's almost like, okay, let's say
Selling is a transaction of anything.
but there's no transaction here. The transaction is
Who's
a
profiting
reward.
where, how, and why?
Correct. But what I'm saying
So
is I'm being rewarded. Okay, let me give you another example. I go to a local school for disadvantaged kids here, and I start giving away, I print multiboard to put in their school lab. Allowed. Now, Tel Aviv City Municipality comes and says, we want to give you a $10,000 grant for all the great work you're doing. Have I profited off of multiboard? I mean, yes, but
yes, but
I'm not
I would
selling
say
multiboard.
you haven't sold multiboard there. No,
So that's the
that's
exact same situation as MakerWorld, in my opinion, giving me points. They're saying, hey, you're doing this great thing for our community. We're going to reward you, which is,
man. So
I don't know. That's my thinking.
this is why it took me 16 lawyers.
Right.
And even then, it's still incredible. Like it's such a gray area where we are. Where I'm literally trailblazing somewhere that has never been really, truly weathered through. So I'm not out here going after people. I still want to go back to that revocability thing because I didn't fully answer it.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, as long as I feel like it's not hurting the system, I'm not going to go after you.
Yeah.
Why would I do that? Things that do hurt the system is people that are putting all these like generators up on other platforms that generate my exact files. Technically, that is copying the copyright of my file. Um, so even if it's a bigger, smaller, whatnot variations, you're using the exact same DNA.
Yeah.
So then it's derivative work, which is basically is under the same license. Anyway, so that does hurt Multiboard because that could have been people that come into the community, see, support the project, maybe don't support the project. I'm trying my best to make the best generators out there right now
Right.
available and free. And then there's also the more customized advanced ones.
Right.
And then the revocability side of things, yes, as it stands right this minute, the license is very much you've got to trust me. I've done nothing in the past or present or anything that's been against the community. I'm for the community in every way, shape, and form.
Right.
Long term wise, the idea is once I get to sort of more of a locked in state of multiboard, there is going to be not so much like a dead man clause, but more of a license change clause, which is
Yeah.
for anyone or anything that were to, heaven forbid, I die, multiboard goes on to somebody else. What happens there? Well, I'm going to basically set an unrevocable statement into the license, which is okay. Well, at that point, it has to stay in this nature. If it gets locked down anymore for the community past where it is now, then the whole thing just becomes open and sort of self-implodes because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe open will implode the whole system. But yeah, that's what I'm wanting to do, but there's no point doing that while it's still in development right now. It's risky right this minute for anyone really to technically build a business on a beta system.
Yeah.
You go to multiboard.io, everywhere where the logo is says beta. So there
And
is
does that
that.
mean that I mean, that means that the standard could still change. Like you recently made a big shift, which was flush is the new standard, right? No more
Yeah.
outset. And I know you changed something about the tiles. We're talking 0.6 millimeters here. So when you say things are beta, you literally mean you guys are welcome to use it, but just know that I'm still figuring out like there may be a new demand and I need to actually change how the whole system works.
Yeah, my plan, one of my core tenets when I was developing and designing multiboard was I never wanted to be scared to change it for the better. Because so often a system gets widely adopted, and then all of a sudden it's like, actually, there was just this one extra little change or this one extra little thing that would have made it tenfold better. And it might break compatibility with like 10% of it, but the rest of it just improves upon that. And
Yeah.
that's been a core tenet of mine, and that's where we are right now. That's why if you go to multiboard, I think it's .io/remixing, or in the remix parts, I have like a board that tells you the stability of the system right now.
Mm,
It's like what is most likely not to change.
that's
I
interesting.
have like super early stuff. Um, er, I have stuff that I know is going to change, stuff that is like an early beta, late beta, and locked in. And even then, it's like, hey, until things are like version one, which when I go version one, that's when every single part is going to get stamped a number, a version. So at that point, that is as baked in as it can be. Um, but yeah, it's a
Okay.
tricky thing.
Let me move us along and quickly let's talk about multiboard is free. As I understand it, all parts become free, and yet there's a thriving. I mean, let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? Like you're sponsoring all kinds of YouTube channels, all kinds of events, which good on you. That's awesome. You're donating to things like the Smurf. Clearly, people are paying for multiboard. So break down the financials for me. Everything is free, and yet membership. There's a membership. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
every single individual part is free or will become free. Now,
Uh,
let's go into a little bit more detail about this become free. So if things come out and they are part of the core system, they're just straight away free.
Got it.
If they're more sort of like, they add a cool little functionality here and there's already another way of doing it, and that will go more into like early access. Or if there's a part that I really am not sure about, that goes into early access. And then if you're a tinkerer, a multi-tinkerer, you get access to the early access. And then for 3 months, it's sort of played around there for a bit, and then it becomes free. And then everybody has it at that point. And then, so there's this constant sort of like this flow of both free and early access parts. Sometimes there's like hardly anything there. So what is there instead? Well, what there is packs. So sort of put together packs to create an outcome. There is generators that are not just simple generators, but they're generators that have been incredibly developed to be more complicated and take it that one step further to let you cut things, change things, customize things how you want, because you create parts that are sort of not in the system. And yeah, that's how it is as it stands right now. It is just that sort of like you get to support the project and help it grow that bit further. So that's ultimately the paid aspect of it.
Yeah, and as I understand it, if you pay, you're getting some like more advanced generators, but also like packs, which I'll be honest, and here people will see that I'm trying as much as I can, even though you and I are friends, to not be biased. I find the packs kind of not valuable at all. What is valuable, I think, is the generators of like, if I don't want to manually in my slicer cut out my outlet or whatever. Todd
100%.
is giving some great feedback, which I want to commend him for, and not getting into ad hominems or anything, but like he feels that the commercial plan is, I'm trying to go through all the different comments, but he feels the commercial license is massively overpriced and that it shouldn't be a licensing. It should be, I can, buy this part and sell it commercially. I've already kind of started answering this in the chat, but like, explain to us. Okay, so I was saying to Todd in the chat that I know some things he doesn't. For example, how many people are already working at Multiboard? Because there are now multiple full-time employees supporting this system and growing it and creating all the documentation and education. But also, what are you spending every month in server costs? I know Thangs hosts the files, but like all the generators, all the traffic, all the videos, all the images, all the explanations, like tell us about your costs as to what justifies
Yeah,
a $42 a month subscription.
sure thing. So, first and foremost, the commercial tier, you have to be. What commercial tiers are one of these things that is all you're getting out of that commercial tier is being able to sell it. If you want, you can sort of like, how the hell am I going to police you? I'm
Right.
not going to really police it. Like, if you really, I'm not saying do this because it just straight up will screw over the system. But if you do not believe in the system, then why would you go for the commercial tier? It's as simple as that. But if you do believe in the system, then you would go with the commercial tier because you want to help the system grow further. Now, as for the overheads of Multiboard, so Multiboard first just started with myself and Stuart, who is my marketer. From there, we now have two other designers. We have two other full-time designers, two other full-time web developers, a full-time UI UX guy, a full-time generator guy, and then we also have a team of 4 others doing content creation.
Wow.
We have a full-time renderer, and we have 2 multi-helpers as well. So
how
in
many people? That's
total,
like 7 or 8 people.
that's 8 people that are basically full-time and another 8
crap.
that are sort of like contracted time. The
That's
overhead of
wild.
Multiboard is insane, and there's a reason why people don't build things like I'm doing, because it's incredibly hard.
Yeah, tell me about
It's
how much work went into this. I mean, I know
um
like you started this 2 years ago now?
yeah, so it's December 15th it came out. 2024, I think. Yeah,
And you had already
some
put in, I think, 6 months of work on just the basic.
easily,
Yeah.
easily 6 months of work just on the first. It was about 26 designs that then,
Wow.
in variations, came out to 500 parts. Um,
Wow.
Now we have 250 designs, and variations of those designs are in the thousands. And honestly, I don't care about variations. I care about designs.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the overhead of multiboard is in the tens of thousands, and
Yeah.
it is. It's
So
what's letting
that's
us
the thing,
build
right? And
this.
that's where I would agree with Todd, who said kind of like it's predatory to charge a high monthly fee. I would agree if it were a fixed ecosystem that's not growing, but it's growing every month. And on top of that, the difficulty is these generators and tools, right, cost money to
Everything.
run. But Todd, if
Yeah.
I'm not doing justice to your argument, please, there's a delay, but please let us know in the chat because I do want to address it. You said have him address the limit.
The
I guess
limit.
that means the 50K limit.
The 50K limit.
I don't know.
The
He just said
50K.
have him address the limit,
I,
so we
I,
can wait a minute.
the only two limits that I know is the 50K limit, which we've already talked about. That all that basically means is we have a conversation so that we create an agreement that scales with you.
Sure.
Because if you're making $1 billion a month and you're only giving me a $50 license, I'm sorry, that's not fair to me nor the community, because
Yeah.
I think we should all profit from that. And then as for the other limit, the only other limit I know is the Fangs download limit. If you're
Mm,
downloading more than 150 things a day, you're probably doing multiboard wrong.
yeah.
Because you only need to download what you actually need. Yeah,
Right.
it's and let's also talk about the server cost there, because that's something that many people are like, hey, why can't I just download it all at once? I'm like, well, okay, I'm trying to be as green as possible. That's one of the things.
Mhm.
Um, so if you download a limited amount, perfect, then it's less download width. Thankfully, I haven't actually had to fork out for the server cost. The server cost of download that Fangs has
Mm,
had to do, which is now 22 terabytes for 2.7 million downloads,
wow.
um, has cost them somewhere in the realms between $7,000 and $17,000,
Wow. That's a lot of
and
money.
that doesn't include the search engine cost either, or all the other costs, or the infrastructure cost, and
And they're taking a percentage of your earnings as a result, right? So that's well paid for. But it does make you appreciative of our corporate overlords, which reminds me, I need to thank mine. Really, really quickly, I'll say thank you to PCBWay and hope that this works. Of course, it doesn't. I forgot to program the Stream Deck. There we go. PCBWay. We're there. It just took a while. So PCBWay, one-stop shop for all things fabrication. They can make kind of any technology for you. If you need CNC machined titanium, they'll do that for you. I actually have a box here that I'm not going to open because it has my address on it, but they made something for me out of a very, very special molybdenum hardened high carbon steel that literally, like, I decided just to price check other places in the world and in China, and no one else could make this steel for me, and they could just do it. Not to mention rigid PCBs, flex PCBs, all the craziest metal 3D printing. They can do all that for you. You get $5 off your first order with my link, and they're just wonderful people that I've worked with for years. So supporting them supports me. And yeah, I have. I think the issue is like ultimately what is fair, whether we're talking about conflicts in the world, right? Russia, Ukraine, or we're talking about in business as well, is a subjective thing, right? To me, I think maybe I'm extreme, but I think if you're building on top of Apple's ecosystem, 20% is fair because again, I'm not paying 20% if I like want to build a web app that just works in Safari for your Mac or your iPhone. But if I want to use their SDKs and Xcode and Swift, and they're investing millions of dollars to develop tools that allow me to build my products, to me 20% is fair. It's shitty, right? But like I pay Patreon 12%. What do they do besides provide a hosting solution? Which, by the way, YouTube I could do for free. I could just upload, unlisted videos. So 12% just for that. Maybe I'm on the extreme side, but I'm a business owner like yourself, and I understand the actual costs of things. I used to be in this mastermind with Joe Polish, Genius Network, which this sounds like a humble brag, but it was $25,000 a year, this mastermind. And he had one that was Genius X, which was $100K a year. And he used to always say, and I love this, and I've held on to it. He used to be like, people are really, really good at the addition. No one remembers to do the subtraction of like this, $5 million a year lease for this insane building and this team of 25 people I have here, like doing all the facilitation for the event. And I think that's true here as well. Like, it's super easy to do the addition and be like, what? There are thousands of members paying $5 a month and $42 a month and all that. But then what does it actually cost to have these tools developed and maintained? Forget the actual design of the products, right? Like, that costs money too, but just the programming of like, there's a multi-board planner and generators and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pricey, and if I'm perfectly frank, I am basically investing close to 80%, if not more, just straight back into the system every single month. It's scary sometimes because I'm putting so much trust into the community to carry on supporting the project, because it is going to, like, I really wanted to take it places for everyone, and we'll go into that because it's something I want to talk about that no one knows yet.
Yeah. Let me ask this just to finish on Todd's thing, which is, this is an interesting discussion, but let's say, again, it kind of defeats the purpose, but I think what Todd's saying is like, sell your product and be done, right? So would you, in theory, would you ever be open to like, here's a pack of 20 things, just the basics. You buy a one-time license. It's only an 8x8 grid. It's only snaps. It's only this. It's like the basics. And essentially saying like, if you want to own a license for this, or a 10-year license or a lifetime license, without all the growing stuff and all the stuff that costs money, would you ever be open to that?
I would need to crunch the numbers, but frankly, it's one of these things that a very good example is, think of, there's some digital goods out there that do lifetime licenses, right?
Yeah.
But how are you able to actually truly say yes to a lifetime license? Like, you have no idea what's going to happen to the infrastructure and the cost there. And so I would have to basically just give parts open and free, and then all of a sudden you have this weird sea of different licensing everywhere. It's just sort of, everybody complains that multiboard isn't simple enough, so let's try and simplify at least this aspect of it, that everything beats the same drum, which is this right here. Again, it's one of those things that a business needs to be made. If we're talking about the commercial licensing side of things, remember, this is just to physically sell the prints, not use.
Sure, like, that's important. That's an important distinction.
And
I think, my contention again comes down to like, what do we feel is fair, and also like a little bit of inside baseball here. But since I've kind of, I've really tried this year to make an effort to highlight open source projects, and I've done videos on ERCF and videos on Box Turtle and videos on Voron alternatives and all the like smaller projects. And I cannot tell you how many people have reached out to me and have been like, I'm done. Sorry, don't include me in the video, because I'm quitting because open source just doesn't pay. I'm getting yelled at my day job. So I see the other side of like, if you don't charge for, I don't want to say who I was talking to specifically, but if you don't charge for something like a Voron project, it doesn't grow, it doesn't thrive, it doesn't improve. And for some reason, as a community, we think like people should work for free if they're passionate enough about it. But that's, we all have mortgages. So
I mean,
yeah,
like the biggest open source project out there, I would say, is probably out one of them is Blender.
right.
And Blender almost went into financial ruin come like 5 months ago
Really, I didn't know that.
because it had like a 0.001 support conversion rate. Like I had more supporting members than Blender.
Right.
That's insane to think that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and also keep in mind, I also actually have open source projects, so I know the open source realm.
Right.
Um,
It's just this weird thing where, again, open source, it's really showing its limits. I think we already talked about that in terms of like, okay, should people be able to pass my work off as their own? Probably not. We need a better license. We need someone who's a lawyer to come in and come out with a better license, a better idea. But also, to Todd's feedback, right? He kind of said, I've been answering the questions myself. I'm very passionate about this, and it's why I keep doing videos about open source projects, wherein in every single one of them, I remind people, and I've said this before, I'm going to keep saying it until it becomes true, right? I don't know what that law is, but like, I'm going to keep repeating it until it's true, even though it's not yet true, which is if you use an open source project, it is customary and expected to contribute to its ongoing development. I'm not talking a one-time $5 donation because you built a Voron. Subscribe to their Patreon. If you use Box Turtle, pay $3 a month to subscribe to the ongoing development. The moment, by the way, and now we're really getting into it, like I feel strongly about this, the moment where they say it's completely done and we're not developing it anymore and the software is done and we're moving on, stop paying, right? But if you want ongoing improvements to the things that you use, whether it's a Voron, whether it's, then you need to support ongoing development. Unless you say, hey, I vow I'm going to support, I'm going to pay my one-time fee, and I vow when they improve that issue with the hub or the new version of the AFC software comes out or whatever, the new version of Mainsail comes out, I'm not going to download because I'm not supporting. Fine, that's cool. Do that. You know what I mean? And I get the idea of subscriptions are over, they're out of control. Why should I subscribe to Photoshop if I'm not going to download the latest version? I get that. But I just have seen too many projects where the creators are hurting. And I'll give you another example. Quicksilver for Mac I've been using for literally 15 years, and it's just died. I've had to switch recently to Raycast because it just died because it was open source and no one was contributing. I was, and I'm just so sick of like projects that I support dying. So yes, if I have been answering for you, it's because I feel strongly about this, that people need to be compensated to keep projects alive.
yeah.
So that's a good segue. How much has Multiboard grown? Can you share with us member statistics? Can you like how many down? Like, tell us a bit about how big the project is, because I was frankly quite surprised to realize how big of a kind of community it is now.
Yeah, so we have 2.7 million downloads, and that's growing around about 100,000 a month. We
Wow.
have a Reddit community that's growing around 1,000 a month as well. We have the Discord community, which I'm stopped sort of promoting as much because that used to be more keep making, and I wanted to get everybody over to the actual official Multiboard community. And the Multiboard community is basically almost the same size as the Reddit one. So there's close to what I would say of active members, probably 15, 20,000 around there.
Wow.
But then if we go and extrapolate that out, not many people actually join the community. It's like 10% join the community. So I would say quite easily we've had at least 200,000 people play around with the system, if not fully using the system. As for actual numbers, I don't really like getting into it because it makes people feel icky, because it's a thing that happens with money. Money makes people feel icky, but you know the size of team that I have. That
Right.
takes a considerable amount. And what I'm doing with all of that is feeding back into the system itself or supporting the community itself.
Right.
The way that I'm supporting content creators, because there's something I really want to address now on the nose. Yes, I am sponsoring many people now.
Yeah.
And literally, like Jonathan already said at the beginning of this, my terms to these is, hey, look, I do not want to make a sponsored video, so to speak. If you want
Mhm.
to make a sponsored video, let's go for it. But what I want to do is sponsor you for doing you. So I want to do a channel sponsor, and then past that, mention Multiboard if it fits, if you like it, if you want to, and then come a year later, we'll talk again. You can tell me how it went for you. I can say how it went for me, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help content creators because I'm one myself with Keep
Right.
Making. Sure, it's paused right this minute, but to help them do what they do and not feel the pressure of incredibly tight restrictions of other types of sponsorships that are out there.
Right. Right.
And yeah, I just want to help the community thrive in every aspect of it.
Well, you're in a really, I think, great position, like a 3D printer manufacturer, where it's like you have a product that can be used for so many projects. You don't really need to, if you're confident in your product, like some of the 3D printer manufacturers are, you can just say, hey, here's some money. When it fits, use my product, and that's it, right? Like use my product instead of the competitor's product, and do whatever the hell you want to do, which the deals that I'm negotiating now with 3D printer manufacturers are that. There's nothing in there except the project will exclusively use this printer. So,
Yeah.
okay, great, easy. I was going to use the printer anyway, you know. Maybe I shouldn't have said that if sponsors are listening. But one criticism I think that comes up a lot. There are a couple criticisms
Yeah.
that I want to kind of address. The first one is it's super complicated, right? There's a lot of parts. There's, you know, to do one thing as opposed to like it can be a snap or this, it's like it can be screwed in, it can be this. And one of my issues coming in was like, why do there need to be 50 ways to do one thing?
Yeah.
Explain your
Uh,
approach there and kind of like what you're
so,
doing to mitigate the complexity and the learning curve.
oh man. Yeah. So, first of all, I know, I hear everyone, I'm doing two things. First one is I'm changing things up completely compared to normal businesses, which is I'm working from the most complicated advanced aspect first and then simplifying. Most companies go for mass market simplicity and then refine
Right.
to absolute like the niche of the niche of the niche. So that's the first thing. This lets me tackle the hardest bits first that affect the whole rest of the system.
Yeah.
And then I'm able to be like, actually, the bits that mean the most for everyone are these core bits here. That's what I want to show. So that's what we're doing. In fact, it's just come out. We've got a new wiki that's just been developed. And that new wiki actually has a new poster. It has documentation. There's a demo pack that comes out. We've got the learning packs that are coming out. We now have something called the core parts. So the core parts basically give you 70% of the function of Multiboard with just like 20 or 10% of the parts. It's sort of like just telling you what you actually need. It helps you differentiate the entire library. And then the other thing that we're doing to simplify things is better tools and a simulator in the future. Not to mention that my number one takeaway is everybody, please, you just have to keep it simple. You really do not need to learn everything. I
Right.
understand there hasn't been the learning resources for it, but I'm changing that as of right now.
Yeah.
I
Well, and you're
haven't
working
been
on an
doing,
AI, right? That I can just like ask, hey, I want to do this, and
yeah,
or is that
I'm working on 101 different things.
yeah,
Um,
I don't know if I was supposed to
the
say that, but you had told me. I was like, I need an AI Jonathan, because what I do, which I shouldn't because you're a very busy man, but I'll just be like, hey, here's a picture. Like, what's the best way? I also feel okay about doing it because I'm presenting it to the audience, and I don't want 200,000 people to do the wrong way. So I'll message you. But if there was like an AI where I could be like, hey, I want to mount this here, like, but I think here's the kicker for me was because I was on your case for a while about just build an infographic which says like, use this for this, use this for this, use this. Like, why would I use a snap versus a thread? And I think having clear rules or best practices is still a valuable thing, right? Like, if you're gonna put more than 5 kilos, or it's, you know, gonna be manipulated a lot, use a thread instead of a snap, right? Kind of. But the kicker for me was just realizing like it actually doesn't matter. Almost everything except for the normal non-bearing friction snaps is stronger than you need. And it's like, if it fits your design more to use a small thread, use a small thread. If it fits your design anyway, the design needs to be thick, then use a big thread. Why not, right? It's easier to turn with your hand. It kind of doesn't matter. And it also can be dictated by like, I want it here or I want it 5 millimeters over. That's going to dictate if I use a small thread in between the,
Do you want it removable all the time? Use a multi-point. Yeah, it's
right. What are you currently working on? What are the kind of 3 priorities that you're working on right now? Because I think that's a segue into, is it an AI?
Well,
Is it more parts?
I mean, my main top 3 priorities right this minute is, if it isn't obvious, it's documentation now.
Right.
To simplify and sort of demystify the system. I've already started now with the wiki. The big one that I'm also doing quite a bit is infrastructure. Again, to simplify, but actually most importantly, to empower the community. And that we can get into a lot more detail about that. And also just fill in all of the like core missing design holes that I see that are left, especially now that we're moving more into like, I've shown my hand and be like, hey, there's more of a building system. There's a lot of building things that are missing right this minute, but I'm developing them left, right, and center. And there's going to be a lot coming out with that. So that's right this minute, top 3, documentation, infrastructure, and filling in the missing holes. So missing holes is everything that most people are like, oh, I need this right away. And also, actually, something I want to say about the missing hole side of things, because a lot of people are going to be like, well, there's already a remix for that. Yes, there is already a remix for that, but
yeah,
the multi-partners don't have permission to use that remix.
got it.
So I need to create a multi-board version so that the partners can go, okay, I don't need to ask another 50 creators.
I see.
I can.
I was going to ask you, like, there has been criticism that you've stifled innovation in remixing. And I wanted to ask, I think we covered this with the whole licensing thing, but also, let me ask it open-ended, because Todd gave me the good feedback that I'm pre-answering questions based on conversations you and I have had. What do you say to people who say like you're stifling creativity with remixing and not encouraging remixing actively?
All right, let's get into this.
Yeah.
So this is a big one, like huge. This has actually been a concept that I've been dreaming up for a while. And let's just... Okay, so yes. So the whole idea of this is honestly, it goes into like, what is the long-term goal of multiboard? Because that is what's happening here. Because if I'm stifling remixing, surely I'm killing the long-term aspect. I'm killing the system itself, right? So there's this air that I'm keeping the growth of multiboard very slow and steady, and the licensing and not letting people create their own packs, and the redistribution of multiboard files, or limited remixing resources, or limited documentation. And honestly, it's twofold. That's sort of the nature of beta. It's a beta reason. But then I am holding it back. And there's a reason why. The reason why I'm holding it back is I'm trying to build the infrastructure for the community. Right this minute, I'm sort of like holding down this pressure pot, and I'm struggling every single day. It's almost impossible. But the idea is I'm changing this to actually turn it into a platform for the actual community. And I just said the big word platform. It is exactly what I'm saying. I'm full on website for it. Because the last thing I want is sort of this like wild, wild west situation that every part is everywhere. all at once. It's decentralized. Nobody knows what's where, what's when, what's the best, what's the latest, what's the greatest style remix that's just come out, and all of that. So the long-term goal of Multiboard is, now please, everybody, here, I just said long-term goal, okay? It's going to take some time, but this is 100% possible thanks to the support of all the Multiboard members, truly. So what is it? If you haven't heard of it before, there's this platform called Rebrickable. And what is Rebrickable? Rebrickable is a platform for people to reuse their Lego bricks with community-driven instructions to make other Lego creations.
Okay.
And then they sell those instructions to the community. All right? That is exactly what I want to do with Multiboard. But then I'm going to take it a step further from there. So anybody will be able to go into Multiboard, into the Multiboard simulator, digitally build a Multiboard pack, and then sell the idea of that pack. Then on top of that, if you can't be bothered printing it, or if you don't have a printer, there'll be like a buy the parts button, and that will basically give you, hey, here are all the multi-partners in your area. Pick which one you want. This is the highest review. This is all that. So technically, anybody who would be a multi-partner would maybe even be getting their first orders right away, day one. So that's that part of it. And then...
So almost like Apple, right? Like anyone, theoretically, if let's remove the like hurdle of coding, but like I can design an iPhone app. I can tap into, what is it, 1 billion iPhone users.
Yeah. And then
I guess you could also argue, right, there's affiliate programs. So even if I can't develop my own app, I can link. So it's the best metaphor I can come up with now, but yeah.
Which is on top of all of that, with all of these lovely remixes that will eventually, I will more than wholeheartedly encourage, is that through some sort of repository somewhere, I'm figuring that out, it's quite hard, you're going to basically be able to link your remixes into the Multiboard simulator to create your own packs uniquely and special for your designs.
Got it.
Or give those remixes to the community for other people to make packs with them. And then it's just sort of this like overarching ecosystem that everybody is sort of like benefiting from it. Now, not only do I want to do that, I also want to influence the global perspective of 3D printing. And I believe the only way to do that is to show a true fusion between 3D printed and non-3D printed parts. Yes, that basically means that Multiboard is currently exploring injection molding.
Right.
That way, I'm able to sell physical Multiboard parts, hopefully globally, and from those, on those physical Multiboard parts, there will be a link to the amazing community, so then everybody can benefit from the growth of the system together.
Yeah. So I have to say I kind of agree with Terrence, who in the comments says he doesn't really like the long-term view of selling the packs. Obviously, I like the long-term view of Multiboard taking over and becoming the standard, and I want more people playing in Multiboard and designing. Don't you hate it when you see like the perfect part, but it's for Scatus or it's for Honeycomb Wall, even though there are adapters? But I want more innovation in Multiboard, and I want more remixes. The packs thing, I have to honestly, as a friend, tell you, like, I don't, it doesn't really speak to me. But then, so like, is the reason, I mean, obviously it's your business to build however you want, right? It's your vision. But is the reason for not encouraging remixing now because if I'm repeating what you said, is it because you don't have a way to compensate people if other people make money off of that remix? You haven't built the infrastructure for someone to...
Yeah. That, as well as I don't want it to turn into this like Wild Wild West sort of situation. I really want those like incredible remixes to be able to go head to head with other incredible remixes and float to the top. Because that's how does that happen when it's spread out everywhere? It doesn't.
Yeah. It's interesting because on the one hand, yeah, it's kind of shooting yourself in the foot to not encourage people to build It's basically remixes are free workforce for you to
100%.
expand the value of your system. And yet you're already dealing with people being overwhelmed. By the way, you already have this the same issue, which in my opinion, Honeycomb Wall had, which is just people doing things that are not very smart, like
Yep.
put using the full thing, the full snap, and modeling it onto a part, which you shouldn't do anyway because you can. There's other ways to do it, but modeling it onto a part in a way that's not strong and needs supports. It's like that's one of my biggest frustrations with Honeycomb Wall. It's like they don't offer an alternative, but Multiboard does. Just do this and put the snap as a you know what I'm saying. So it sounds to me from this conversation and from other conversations as if you are trying to kind of control the remixes, but I don't think from our interactions that it's nefarious. I think it's a I would argue, and tell me if I'm wrong, I think it's a perfectionism thing. And I think it's you're obsessed about not just the perfectionism of like, hey, it's kind of fucked up that someone is going to go and sell this and I can't control it and it's a remix and that's not fair. It's also perfectionism of like, things could change. And I may change 0.6 millimeters on the way the grids work. And then all these remixes, people are going to be printing and they are going to have a bad experience.
Yeah, for sure. That is also a big part of it.
Yeah.
And I completely understand the aspect of part of packs and you don't really care about them. But then again, we have to remember, we are the maker community. We are makers. We're used to this.
Right.
We're used to making. I am going way beyond
Right.
just the maker community. I'm wanting to push the toys and skills and like the space that we play with the world, and then bring that to us.
Yeah.
That's what I really want to do.
Hmm.
So yeah, that ultimately is it. So there's a lot of infrastructure to build there, and it's hard, and it's not the usual, and it's different, and it's against the norms, and people don't like things that are against the norms. But the first time anything is done that's against the norms, people think it's weird. And then all of a sudden it gets seen, and all of a sudden it's like, actually, hold on, now I get it. And multiboard, yeah, the one thing I want to say about the complexity side of things is that multiboard is subsystems inside of it. And yes, there's loads and loads of parts inside of that. And you could sort of reflect it by looking at Lego. Like Lego is actually now subsystems inside of it. There's the
Right.
Duplo, there's the Lego brick, there's the Bionicles, there's the custom bricks, there's Lego Technic. If they were to have put all that out in a 2-year period, it would have looked incredibly complicated.
Yeah.
Because it came out in a 92-year span,
Wow.
it doesn't feel as complicated. They were able to build the infrastructure to drop feed it all to everyone. Because
Yeah.
I don't believe in kickstarting a project that's already going to happen. That's one of the things that I've done with Multiboard is like, hey, I wanted this out now. And sure, it's shot me in the foot many times over. There's many
Right.
times that parts have been made that I'm just like, I literally have been developing that for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
And now people are going to say that I've just copied that.
I want to get into that real quick, but I do want to touch on some folks have said in the chat, and by the way, I agree. Like I consider you a friend, and so I stab you in the front, and I've said this to you as well. Like one person says, it's not perfectionism, it's idealism, and I think that's true. I think I I don't know if I could do this in your position, so let me say that, right? Like, but I do think like there may be my feedback would be there may be a certain amount of mess and sloppiness that you in a perfect world, again, I'm an obsessive person as well, if you look at my videos, but there may be a certain amount of slop and mess and incompatibility that you need to stomach and take on the chin and say, fuck it, just to give people that feeling now of what I think is in your heart, which is you want to encourage innovation and people building on your system. And I think who is it who said this? I just scrolled way wrong. I think Fundamental, interesting name, might be right. Like it might be too idealistic to say like, wait, I got to get everything perfect before you guys build on this ecosystem when the cat's already out of the bag. What's the saying? Like the toothpaste is already out of the tube, man. People are building on this thing, and I wonder if, because I do think, and part of the reason we're doing this podcast is I think you have an optics issue, like knowing you and knowing what you're doing for the community and all the projects you're supporting. And I know your heart's in the right place. I believe your heart is in the right place. And I think it's coming up with your, call it idealism, like obsessive want for everything to be perfect and ideal, however you want to say it. That's just my feedback. You might just
I
have
mean,
to say
no,
like,
no, no. No, I completely agree. At the end of the
okay.
day, I completely agree. I 100% want things to be better because
Yeah.
I believe the community deserves better. Because there's been plenty of projects that have been out there that have done amazing. And why can't they be better? So
Yeah.
that's where I'm coming in and just being like, okay, screw it. I'm going to do my best to make it better. Is that going to hurt me? Is that going to hurt the project? Is that going to hurt everything to get it done better? Yes, because it's never been done before.
Yeah.
There's no playbook for me to follow. I literally have to throw a ball and be like, okay, there isn't a death trap over there. Let's move in that direction.
That's interesting. I think maybe, and I do want to move on to like the idea of taking inspiration from the community. You mentioned the word copying, but I think maybe an interesting thing in the future, I don't know how you would do this, but like even using AI maybe, is when you have the model repository saying like, remix, make whatever you want, but there's a rating. How well does it follow the standards? And like if someone's making this, which instead of doing it this way, they're putting a large snap on the bottom, so now I can't print it in its best orientation, like that gets an F. But again, this is me giving you my opinion, feedback based on things I see in my comments and in live chat here, is like I feel like a certain amount of relinquishing, let's not call it control, but a certain amount of accepting imperfection is only going to help people understand where your heart actually is, which is pro community, pro innovation.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the what exactly is that I need to accept the imperfection of, because I would say the project as it stands right now is jank.
Really?
Well,
I
I
think
would
it's
say
gotten
it,
so much better since I got into it, just
oh,
with the generators
absolutely.
and tools. Yeah.
For sure, it's got so much better, but I already know and see it's going to be 10 times better than that. So it's
Yeah.
sort of like I've already let go all of that. So the only other thing is what, let go of the idea of anybody being able to do anything and everything with it. It's like if I let that happen, it turns into that Wild West situation. And
But I think you can't own, maybe I'm looking at it too narrow, right? I'm specifically looking at like someone making a remix that doesn't work very well or doesn't follow the principles or is hard to print. But let's not talk about the licensing issues, because that's a whole thing like that frankly I don't even want to think about. You don't own that. That's not your fault if someone designs a part poorly. But you
no,
maybe should try to, as you said, bubble up. But then again, these sites all have rating systems as well, printables, things, you know.
yeah, to further themselves.
No, but I'm saying I can choose if I'm looking for a screwdriver holder. Hopefully the community is rating and said like this one needs to print with supports. Why would you design it this way?
Again, I have to say this, it's to further themselves.
I
There
see.
is, as it stands right this minute, in my experience, there's not a single platform out there that isn't trying to sell itself rather than the project or the community spirit.
Got you.
There is, it's, yeah, I've talked to every single bigwig out there now, and there's many things I can't say, but there's definitely an air that at the end of the day, the in are in the in, and then once you're in, you're in. But I want everybody to be in. I don't want it to you have to be the top 2% or the top 5% or the
Mm.
top 10% of downloads, and then you get one slot in that 3 slot area for the showcase of
So if I
whatnot.
understand it, what you're saying is you're really trying to build a marketplace where let me try and restate what you're saying because it took me a while to get it. You're saying I really want remixing. I really want people to build on my ecosystem and develop my product for free to me. But I first want the marketplace in place for people to be compensated and relinquish rights in the proper way. Does that kind of summarize it?
It's exactly that.
Yeah.
So as it stands right now, think of it as like I am very much holding and nurturing multiboard.
Yeah.
And then once it gets to the point that it's like, okay, it can hold its own now. I quite frankly, the platform is where I just go, community, it's now your own self-fulfilling prophecy. Where do I get a cut from that? Absolutely, because this is a business. It's going to be like a 3 or whatever percentage cut on transactions, and that'll
Yeah.
basically be it. But
Yeah.
that will then go back in to make it even better for everyone.
Yeah. Which
So
people can agree or disagree with. Um,
yeah.
let me ask the criticism. Uh, I have seen people complain that you cherry pick the best ideas and integrate them into multiboard rather than encouraging people to build their own things. So what's your feedback? Like, do you do that?
So I mean,
And in the meantime, I'm gonna grab a battery to plug my phone in while you
okay,
talk.
sure thing. Well, I totally get how that could be seen like that. But I mean, the reality is my goal is to, and always has been, is to create the best building system possible. And there are so many ways, and there are only so many ways to sort of design a box, a hook, a drawer, or a connector. I never go out of my way to copy anyone in any way, shape, or form. Yes, I do draw inspiration of what's already out there, like any designer does. That's sort of the process, and that's what happens by examining what's out there and then pushing that further. Ultimately, I'm aiming to always make things stronger, more adaptable, better aligned with global standards wherever possible. And if there is ever a concept that I truly, absolutely love, and I believe that it is impossible to innovate on, I don't just take it. Firstly, that's morally wrong and is probably against their license, but I reach out to the original creator and I see how we can collaborate and find a way to do some sort of cross compatibility. That's ultimately what I do there. It's it's really tricky. I go back to Zach Freeman, frankly,
Yeah.
that originality is dead. It's now really sort of more of a innovation and pulling things out even further and going further than that. Because it truly is everything in the world has pretty much like the basic idea has almost been designed, thought of, patented in some way, shape, or form. And then from there, most of the time it gets lost to the wind. Like a great example is actually Lego. Again, Lego actually has 3,700 patents or something like that.
Oh my God.
68% of them are dead. Um, so it's really tricky. But yeah, I never actively go and copy anyone. It's not what I go and do.
Well, and one could argue, right? Like you can people like to criticize this idea of like let's take an example. Bamboo Lag took from the open source community and then sold those ideas. Well, it's like open source or let's give another example. Sovel took from the Voron open source project and sold it as their own. Well, first of all, as long as the only thing you can't use about the Voron project is the word Voron. So if I want to do what Vividino does and literally make a direct copy and sell it, that's what open source is, friends. And that's, as I understand it, why you don't have an open source license, because that's I don't think fair, personally. So first of all, like, let's say you wanted to go and find all the best open source designs. You're actually well within your rights to directly copy them and integrate them into Multiboard. Now, where it gets tricky is this idea of a lot of what open source means is if you take from open source, then, for example, like Orca Slicer, Bamboo Slicer, they have to be open source because they're based on open source software. Though one could argue you're fulfilling the requirements of open source because you're publishing it online for free. Right, which is actually technically what you need to do. Like
half and half.
Half and half. My point being is like, I don't know what my point was, but my point was kind of along these lines of like, if someone publishes something open source, they want other people to develop and improve it and integrate it, right? So I don't think what you're doing is like redesigning your whole system because someone had a better idea. You're more like, hey, this is a cool idea. Let me figure out how to make it compatible.
Absolutely. And what's also quite interesting on that is many people design their developments based off another open solution. And if there's already another open solution, if you lock that down and you say, hey, you copied me, it's like, what if I was inspired by this thing?
Yeah.
Here we get into the whole insane thing that is intellectual property law. And honestly, I don't want to get into it.
Sure.
Because it is way too complicated and boring and patent. And does it look like the thing? Does it not look like the thing? What is a remix? What's the definition of all of those things are actually incredible gray areas that I've gone into way too many expensive hours talking to a lawyer about.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. But I also get the argument that like your obligation is to make Multiboard as good as possible. And if there are good ideas, your obligation to the people who are paying a monthly fee. I mean, we just got through this whole discussion of like, why is it a monthly fee for commercial? It's a monthly fee because there's ongoing development. If there weren't ongoing development, it would be buy the files like you do on Colts and be done. And so your obligation to those shareholders, if you will, is, you know, if someone tomorrow comes out with a really clever ARM solution, right? Like telescoping ARM, and it becomes the next Gridfinity, but for mounting things, like you kind of need to integrate that. Let me ask
be it
about
a collaboration or completely redesign.
Right. Yeah. Cable management, when's that coming? A lot of people have asked.
Okay, I'm going to just tell you the frank truth of it right now. Cable management, I actually had it 70% designed, and then I revisited it and I threw the whole thing into the bin and started again come 3 weeks ago. We're already about 40% through sort of like the core DNA of it, and it is tenfold better. So if I had to give a number, again, take everything that I'm about to say here with a massive grain of salt, I would say, let's say a month, 2, somewhere there, to get what is ultimately the core essence that people want of the cable management system. And it is as multiboardy as multiboard gets. But
interesting.
The fun part is, don't worry, I am still keeping it simple. There is a simplicity to it as well. It has been a hard development because I don't want to just make what you can just buy on Amazon, which is like the cable trunking. Like if you're going to just do cable trunking, go to Amazon. It's $15 or $25 and you get like 3 meters of the stuff, and then just screw that up and you're done. So I want to make it so that it really empowers the 3D printing space rather than your relatives looking at it and just going, hey, why didn't you just buy it on Amazon? Instead, you spent days and days and filament printing something that probably would cost just as much. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. A lot of innovation on that side, and it is real interesting. And I know, especially you, Jonathan, have been wanting this, have been hounding me for this. And it's coming. It's for sure coming. And I'm pushing the development of that. So that's the key development that I'm sort of pushing right this minute, along with the documentation and infrastructure. So, yeah.
All right, fair enough. You've recently released new beams, which I haven't checked out. What are beams and what does that mean?
Oh man. So the beams that was the big sort of Trojan horse opening moment. Ultimately, the beams was like, hey guys, this isn't an organization system. This is a building system. And this
Got
is
it.
the very beginning of going, let me show you what this is really capable of. So the beams is basically an entire construction, the beginning of an entire construction set that lets you pretty much create anything you're wanting to create with it. Already the community is having a whole bunch of fun with it. Right this minute it's quite limited. It's got some hinges, it's got some angle beams, but we're going to go 4-way, 3-way, doors. People have already started to do the remixes that I wanted to do, which is like acrylic paneling. There is so much when you turn this, and this has also technically been designed from the ground up for this, to actually not be an organization system just. It's actually a building system. So you can build organization, or you can build toys, or you can build a project. I've got emails from Microsoft Research and Development that want to use Multiboard in their R&D facilities, not just for organization, but to build projects with. I've also got emails from people that are using it in breweries to create entire setups, people that are using it in, in robotics, that they've got this like rail system and they're using the multi-board units because they are set standardized units that works with the things within robotics, that they're just able to be like, brilliant, done, sorted. Here is the floor, the grid system that we're going to be using.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the beams are, the beginning of going into the 3D space, because multiboard is all about multiple functionalities and usabilities, including building.
It's just so much. I'm really glad that it's you and not me, because I would be so massively overwhelmed. Also, with the I think one of my big takeaways here is just there's so much happening beyond the design part and the compatibility part. It's all this really unpleasant legal stuff and ramifications where you don't want to be accused of profiteering off your community's open source designs or free designs. I shouldn't use the word open source, or patents. Yeah. I think now is a good point to draw to a close, but Todd has some suggestions that he'd love to share. Where's a good place for people to give feedback, bug reports, suggestions for a potential limited commercial license, which I think we went on way too far of a tangent?
For sure. So as it stands right this minute, it is in the official Multiboard community. So if you go to multiboard.io, there's a tab there that says community. In there, we have feedback and suggestions. In the coming, so let's say 2-3 weeks, I'm actually building an entire upvoting system, so that you'll be able to put in feedback and suggestions there. And then anybody and everybody will sort of be able to be like, oh, yes, upvote this. And then people will be able to track the progress of that ticket. I know many people are going to be like, well, just use this or just use that, and it's already around. It's like, not many people know how to use these more complicated systems, and I'm wanting to make this as simple as possible. I want someone who is just getting into 3D printing and has never touched code or any type of like more complicated digital infrastructure. is able to go here and be like, number up, done. I don't need to have yet another account to do this and that and that. No, it's just all in one place. You can go and interact right there. So that's what I'm building next.
Whew. I think
Yeah.
the rating system is going to be really, really important. As I said, I think a big solution to this perception, but as you admitted, like it is a reality where you are trying to control, even if it's for, I believe, benevolent reasons, right? Control remixing. I think it's going to solve this issue of like, dude, remix, make whatever the hell you want with multiboard. It really is an open-ended building system, but I'm not gonna stop you, but I am gonna highlight the remix designs that I feel follow the ethos of the system, follow the rules of the system. What
Absolutely.
happens?
And
Here. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to actually even create remix documentation.
Yeah.
That's 100% going to happen.
Yeah.
It's again, I'm nurturing the project, which is a product, but I'm nurturing it to the point that then I can just be like, run free. But in that nurturing prospect, if it just gets bombarded with stuff, it can hurt the growth of it in a negative fashion as well.
Right. Let me ask you this. Here's I think a good way to wrap on like control versus best interest of the ecosystem. If someone designs something and it is better than the official way that you have outlined to do something, I don't have an example, but something bigger than like, oh, this is a better caliper holder. We're talking like a new system that integrates into multiboard in the way that Multipoint did. What happens then? Like, what do you do?
I get in contact with that creator and be like, dude, that looks amazing. I love it. It's so great. How can we best collaborate? If there is zero way of me innovating or taking that to the next level and making it look completely different from it, or, there's only so many ways you can make a box, or make a drawer, or make a hook.
Right.
So, like, apart from that aspect of it, if it's completely new and it's different and there's no way of changing that, hey, surely if you're building this with multiboard in mind, surely you want me to sort of push that forward. Now,
Right.
once we get into the big system and the community side of things, amazing. You're on the platform. You can put that stuff on there and just let you basically grow with multiboard.
So let me get specific. So if I understand correctly, you're saying you contact them and say, "Hey, I'd like to make this the official thing. Can I pay you?" And you would then license it from them to include it to members.
It would be
Unless
that way or compatibility. Yeah.
unless you can find a way to say, "Hey, that's good, but I'm going to take it to the next level," in which case, as someone pointed out, a 10% difference, if you change it by 10% and improve it, then you would make your own version, which I think is kind of what happened with Multipoint, right? There was a good idea, but it wasn't compatible.
You mean multi-connect?
There was multi-connect, yeah.
So multi-connect's an interesting one. I've actually been developing Multipoint 5 months before multi-connect came out.
Right.
So when I saw that come out, my heart sank. And when it did come out, I was just like, well, I'm not going to speed up and make a worse design. I need to make sure this works everywhere, test it everywhere, put it through the ramifications of everything that I put it through. And in the end, it is what it is. When people want to make their own thing, they can make their own thing. You cannot stop someone making a different head shape for a screw.
Yeah.
So there you have it. I just made sure that I can make Multipoint be an entire connection-based ecosystem that goes way above and beyond what many people thought is even possible to do.
There's also the example, right, of underwear, the under system. But I guess what I'm understanding is like, again, correct me if I'm wrong, your whole thing is like, you want to actively encourage this creativity. You want to make sure that the systems are in place beforehand. And the systems specifically mean the financial systems, meaning What happens if one of your commercial licenses wants to sell underwear? Well, that's a problem. It's not fair, and you know, you have to have the infrastructure in place, but also systems in place of like bubbling up the best models to the top.
Yeah. So here, for instance, one of the things that would happen within this like crazy community that I'll sort of build is there is no way that I would be able to have multiple licensing on a platform. You would have to
Right.
put the multiboard license on it. Now, can you remove the multiboard license from it? You can, because it's revocable. So
Right.
you can remove the multiboard license from your own part, but then it's no longer on the platform. It's
Right.
it's one of those things of like there is a space that everybody can feel safe and secure that they can play with it both in a personal way and a professional way.
Yeah.
And that's something that big entities have really enjoyed and why they've reached out to me
Yeah.
because they're like it's really clear there's a full legal code here. They can tell that a lot of thought is going into this.
Yeah. It's just so much, and it's also one of the people criticize me for changing my tune about Prussia as I got to know the team there. And I explained very
Okay.
simply, it's when you judge something from the outside, not having the information that those people have, it's very easy to come to conclusions, right? And most of the criticisms around Prussia is like, why don't they have cameras? Why don't they make a bigger build plate? But then you talk to them and they're like, yeah, we did a survey and 72% of our clients say if our printers have cameras, they would just remove it anyway. And or most of our clients have more than 25 printers, like in terms of sales volume. If we had made the printer 255 by 255, that means our clients who have 100 plus build plates would have to buy all new build plates. That's why the Core 1 uses the same build plate. And you're like, oh, so actually it's if you're on the outside looking in, you're judging someone else's decisions based on imperfect information. And I feel that's the case here, where people say like, oh, this is stifling innovation. Well, they don't understand that you're talking with manufacturers about injection molding potentially, and what then happens if a critical part of the system is someone else's creation and you haven't first done the groundwork to say, hey, I need to, that the license allows this or doesn't. So that's what I feel like is just there's this information asymmetry in what
Yeah.
you're doing. And you also, by the way, know, like, okay, you'd been working on multipoint for months. You know what's coming after multipoint. And you know that screw head needs to be 8 millimeters because if it's 10 millimeters, it's going to break something. So I think the way that I would summarize this conversation is to say, like, and tell me if you agree or disagree, because I feel like I've spoken for you too much in this whole conversation, but I think there are benefits to fully open source and there are downsides. And just like the argument with Bamboo Lab being closed source, there are benefits to having a system where one person or a team of 8 people oversee this and navigate people's creativity in a very specific way, the way that Apple does, right? Like doesn't matter what great idea you have, you cannot input monitor on the iPhone. You just can't. Like if you can't monitor what I'm typing on my iPhone when I'm not in your app, right?
Yeah.
And I think Multiboard is, I don't want to compare it to Apple directly because Apple's a very closed ecosystem, but I think Multiboard is similar in that way, in that you guys want to shepherd creativity so that things are done in a way that's compatible. Would you agree? And would you agree, like,
Yeah.
that doesn't go
Oh,
for everyone? Some people want Gridfinity, the beautiful chaotic mess of Gridfinity, which now there are things that are not backwards compatible. The magnets from the original bins don't fit with certain base plates that people have come up with, and on and on.
yeah. And that's one of the other things. There's lots of little things like that you have to learn through really hard decisions,
Right.
um, that are not really centralized anywhere. Um, I think so. There's a few things there. So the first one, I wouldn't really compare myself to Apple. I would say what I would like to do is be more like Android with default settings.
Right.
So I'm wanting to be more like that. And when it comes to open source, yes, open source is amazing for getting something going. That's literally what it's for.
Yeah.
It's for getting something going. This space is now going. and
Right.
and 3D printing people, the manufacturers, they know it's going. So they're now all of a sudden they're spending most of their time actually reviewing patents, not actually designing things, because that's what they have to do because the space is no longer in this thing of like, hey, we need to all work together to get this even into the reality of the mass market. No, we are in the
Right.
mass market now. So now it's competition to get things better. And that's sort of against quite a bit of the sort of the incredibly open maker philosophy. But the other thing when it comes to things that are open, things that are incredibly open is incredibly hard or almost impossible to really be able to have the capital, the funding, the
Yeah.
adminship and centralization, the digital infrastructure, and just system design development because you're just working on a community whim. And when a community whim isn't a foundational core, well, when you're trying to make the foundational core community whim, that will literally fall away and then the project's dead.
Right.
And
I don't envy you. I don't envy you because there's a lot of gray area here. There's a lot of hard and unpleasant work as well, and there's a lot of like being the bad guy for the greater good, which is, for example, being the bad guy and saying like, I need some way to control this because other people are innovating and I can't sell their designs and I'm making money off this. So, it is for,
yeah,
I believe, for the greater good. Someone asked a very hard question and I promised
well,
to
I just want to
bring the
say,
hard
I just want to say
questions. Yeah, go
one
ahead.
thing, which is ultimately what I'm trying to do is create an ecosystem that everyone can benefit from.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
And I think as people get to hear you talk about it more, and also don't judge your words, judge your actions, right? If you're on the sidelines and you're not sure you want to invest in Multiboard for a business license or whatever, I mean it's free to use, right? Then sit it out and set it at time on your calendar in 6 months to say, hey, what has been done, right? It's kind of the same as like Kickstarter. A lot of times I will just send myself an email for 6 months from now and be like, I don't trust this new company enough yet, but I'll buy the product when they're shipping. Try. Let me ask this very hard question, then we'll draw it out. Projects in Dad's Garage says, what's to stop you from revoking everyone's license when a company like IKEA comes along and offers a very big check to be the only show in town?
Oh, for sure. Like as it stands right this minute, you have to trust me.
Yeah.
And I know that's a big ask for anyone, especially if you don't know me. Um, my plans are, I can tell you right now, I'm not going to ever do that. Of course, that's just me saying it. I believe this is the project as much as possible for the community, with the community in mind. I'm building an entire infrastructure to try and disconnect from the overlords that are within our space so that we
Right.
can just push this to the sky. And yeah, that's one of those things. And then if we go earlier, I did say that the plan is when we get closer to a more finalized state, I'm going to be adding sort of like a dead man clause,
Yeah.
but rather than a dead man clause, it's a closure clause, which is if this project were to go more closed, then that it is set right this minute for the community. So personal use, commercial license, no injection molding for
Yeah.
commercial reasons and all that good stuff. Then the entire project, doesn't matter who owns it, flips up. Now, how on earth do I make that happen? It's going to be a tricky thing because I'm going to have to somehow figure out some sort of system
Yeah.
that goes in place for that. But yeah, at the end of the day, what I would do is create a legal system within the contract itself that if whoever owns Multiboard way down the line, 50 years from now when I'm dead, is sort of like hey, that new owner has just closed it down. Within the legal contract, the community can now basically sue the company that owns Multiboard
Yeah.
to make it available.
That makes sense. I also think it's important in these situations to just follow logic. And it's like, okay, let's take the example of IKEA. First of all, IKEA is not going around sending copyright notifications for people to take down Scatus designs. Because why would they? That would be so stupid. Someone's for free adding value to their product. And also it's like, you're not going to go to people's homes and be like, hey, you put up multi-board and I've changed the license. I think it's the only people who are at risk of license change are the people who are investing in building a business around this. I think that's
For sure.
important to say, right? Like, I hate to say it, but people print things that they don't have the license to print all the time, right? Like
Piracy
Wexter has
is
a
the thing.
huge issue with piracy. So I'm not encouraging you to pirate anyone's designs. If the license changes, it doesn't sound like it's going to. I think the only people who have to be worried about is the commercial license people, and you have to wonder, like, anyone who would buy the rights to sell multiboard, I think would be enthusiastic about higher availability of designs and printed parts, I think. Right? It's like I said, let's look at what IKEA has already done. They could say, we only want people to put approved IKEA made accessories on their Scatus, but they have not. And I think anyone who would buy this ecosystem, and not that you're selling it, would feel the same way of like, great, people are gonna make my product ubiquitous and innovate on it, and sell versions and parts that I can't. Hell yeah, dude.
So, and yeah, and that's the idea of the platform, to help that happen.
Yeah, I'm still not sold on the platform, I'll be honest. To me, maybe I don't understand it correctly, but to me it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm coming around to the idea that where I get lost is the packs and stuff. It just sounds like a lot of noise. But like I said, I don't find your packs valuable.
No, right, as they stand right now, I think there's 3.
Yeah.
There's like 50 planned, but there's people that are going to be making packs for everything. PC packs, AMS packs, you name
Oh, that's
it.
interesting. That's
So
interesting. So you're
rather
saying
than
it's
you
not
having to
about
think it all
like,
through,
I get what you're saying. You're
you can
saying,
let somebody else do all the thinking. You buy the Lego kit from there, and it's done.
I get it. I get it. Is there anything you wanted to cover or get off your chest that we didn't cover? This is the
I
by
mean,
far the longest episode I've ever done.
oh, well, no, just I've got everything off my chest. Some things that I've kept under wraps for quite some time is now out there, and I think now a lot of the decisions and the things that I've been doing with multiboard now become a lot more understandable, because I completely agree. Without all the information, it's going
Yeah.
to be like, this guy is mad. Why is he doing this? But now that I've laid it out, like all the cards on the table here,
Yeah.
it's
Well, and like I said, I disagree with the like the PAX vision and stuff like that. But again, I feel like we're talking about geopolitics. I don't have a better solution, right? So you've presented the problem. People love to criticize, especially the part of the world that I live in. Like, you shouldn't be doing this, or this shouldn't work this way. Yes, it shouldn't work this way, but what's the solution, right? So you've presented this problem of like, I want people to remix and innovate, but I can't in good conscience continue to make money off of it. So your solution is, let me build I'm going to call it a marketplace more than a platform,
it
because
is. It is.
I don't have a better solution for that.
Yeah. And it's not just me make money. It's everyone make money.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
everyone to profit from this. I want remixers to profit from this. I want pack designers to profit from this. I want the 3D printing partners to profit from this. I want the global community to feel like, oh, amazing. I bought this at Lowe's or whatever, and there's all this stuff now that this amazing community
Yeah.
has made, and I can support that community and better the thing that I just bought at this big hardware shop.
Yeah. I guess the only modern example that we have really is like iPhone or Android, right? Like the App Store, the affiliates make money, but I think there isn't a really good example. In any case, I think what you're doing is ambitious and courageous as hell. It's not easy. And I hope that giving people an insight into like the challenges, it's so easy to look at it and be like, the challenges are design and fitment. That's all the easy stuff for you, it sounds like. The real challenges are licensing and what happens if you do want to put this in the hands of people who don't own a 3D printer. And then what does that mean for the community? And what does that mean for people who already have a license? And it's a lot.
Licensing, infrastructure, delivery, the system as a whole, keeping it easy and simple, yet building upon it. I've already.
Do you think this is your
like
life's work? Times. Do you think you'll be working on this in 25 years?
I have no idea. All I do know is there is a sub project that's coming from this project to make other projects like this possible again and much easier. I want to, thanks to Multiboard, I want to make other projects be able to experience this type of community much easier.
I definitely think you are, you're going to have all the arrows in your back, right? Whereas like you've presented an alternative case of like, it doesn't have to be Gridfinity where people are probably making millions off of selling Gridfinity stuff off of Zach's original idea. But it also doesn't have to be Scatus, right? You can only buy it from IKEA. You're going to face a lot of hate, I think. But in the end, my hope is that people are going to go, I took this course on sociology of deviance in college, which was hands down the most interesting course I took. I took it at Berkeley, so give you an idea of like what that classroom environment was. But what they taught us, the biggest thing that I took away 20 years later is that deviant behavior, I'm not talking about like sexual deviance, but once upon a time, interracial marriage, like me marrying a Chinese woman would have been deviant behavior. Deviant behavior is important because it stimulates discussion and disagreement, and then we as a society decide, is that behavior deviant? And I think in a lot of ways what you're doing with a custom license and trying to build a platform, and it is deviant behavior in our community. But I think in 10 years time, or even in 5 years time, it will either, you'll go down in history as the guy who tried and it didn't work and the community rejected it, or you will be a trailblazer where people will say, like, by the way, the Voron project has been a trailblazer, or in its own way. And I don't agree with everything the way that they've done it, but and it has inspired 100 other projects.
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so too. I see how much work you're putting in, and I know your heart's in the right place. Thanks for answering all my questions, man.
No worries. I'm an open book. I tried my best there.
And thanks to everyone for tuning in. We'll leave links in the description, not only to our sponsors, but also to Multiboard. And let's do this again in 6 months, and we can kind of like reflect on the progress.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds awesome.
All right, guys. Make sure to hit the like button on the way out, everyone. And thanks for tuning in. I will take us out and we can debrief. Take care, my friend.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infill Podcast. For show notes or links to anything mentioned in today's episode, visit thenextlayer.com. If you enjoyed the episode, please don't forget to leave us a review wherever you're listening, or click the like button to let us know. And consider subscribing to The Next Layer on YouTube so you can tune in live and participate in the next conversation. We'll see you on The Next Layer.